everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner, and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your not-so-secret identity?
Okay. My name's Ewen Cluney. I'm variously wear hats as a translator and game designer and so forth. And today I'm wearing my translator slash publisher hat because I'm here to talk about the Twilight Tales supplement for Golden Sky Stories.
Now, Golden Sky Stories was a really neat idea. I remember being introduced to it a while ago because it's a very... I mean, it's not violent, right? There's no real fighting in it.
Yeah.
Last I was aware, and I thought that was really cool for a tabletop game. I'm a noob when it comes to tabletop, so for me, I was like, oh, this is neat. I could try and get like my family into it. They were not interested, but I tried.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing that like non-violent games are really rare in tabletop role-playing games. That was part of why, when I came across this game from Japan, from of all things, the creator of Made the role-playing game, I was really interested in it, and like we eventually took an amazing amount of effort, but we did finally actually publish it. So, and it's been really gratifying how receptive people have been to this game that like goes so much against what is typical for the entire medium that it's part of.
So you mentioned Maid RPG, so I'm forced to talk about it because the audience is super familiar with it. Back in my day, before it was everybody and their mom did tabletop like live streams and stuff, we actually used to do it for our fanatics, and so I was the only girl. And that actually hasn't changed on staff. I'm like the only girl, and all of the other 30 employees are male. And we used to play weekly rounds of Maid RPG, and we used to post those up for the fans out there. And it was great because you had all these guys in falsetto voices arguing about shoes.
Fantastic.
And that's what I loved about it. And that's actually my first tabletop game was Maid RPG.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you guys had so much fun with that. That was another thing we just put a ridiculous amount of work into and learned some hard lessons from, which is part of why our version of Golden Sky Stories, as well as the guy I worked with on Maid RPG, Andy Kitkowski, he published this whole other game called Tenra Bansho Zero, and yeah, both of us learned a lot from doing Maid RPG, and the subsequent games that we published in English have been much better because of that. But even still, I'm still just blown away by how much support Maid RPG continues to get to this day.
I was just happy I could convince them to do
it. I mean, it very much has a following, but it is a hard sell for some people. That's very true.
Well, I think what I liked about it really quick, because I do want to get back to Golden Sky Stories, because that is the meat of the story, is that for Maid RPG, it was so easy to make a character. Like that was the great thing is I'm actually trying my first traditional D&D campaign, like 3.5, I think, and I'm like, oh my god, there's so much to roll and so much to do, and I'm a little overwhelmed. And the only way that I'm even kept involved is it's kind of a homebrew towards Final Fantasy 14, and that's the only way my brain is able to like process it. But with Maid RPG, it was easy to just roll a character and kind of be done and then play,
Yeah, that's one thing I like about Maid RPG is it does random character generation more interestingly than most any other game, and it's actually been a huge influence on my original designs, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that really quick for the fans out there that know about Maid RPG and have laughed at us, and especially our one butler that just always did S's all the time, among a few other things. So, but for Golden Sky Stories, let's talk about the Kickstarter.
Okay.
Because the Kickstarter's up now.
Yes.
You got 3 days to go. It's not a lot of time. Let me link that 5 times in the chat for everybody else.
Okay.
But tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter.
So we put out the original game. Well, we kickstarted the base game in 2013. I think it took us over a year to get the actual book out, and we've been having life kicking us in the behind a lot and so on. But we finally are ready to launch the first Japanese supplement. And that one was originally released in Japan under the title Mononoke Koyake, and because that's gibberish to a lot of Americans, we came up with the title Twilight Tales. So the main thing that the supplement provides is it's a set of 5 new character types, which are called the Mononoke. So basically, in the core rulebook, you play what are called henge. So you're playing these cute magical animals, whereas the Mononoke are creatures, just like full-on supernatural creatures that don't necessarily have 1 foot in the natural world the way henge do. So for example, one of the character types is kappa, as in the Japanese water goblins. There's oni. There's what are called michinoke, which are creatures that appear on roads. So like the Western equivalent would be something like the will-o'-the-wisp, but in the Japanese lore, it's things like the karakaso obake, that crazy hopping umbrella with 1 eye and a giant tongue.
Yeah, so this is going to sound really stupid, but Yokai Watch has educated me very well on that sort of stuff.
I've been doing research on yokai and stuff, and like it's genuinely fascinating and impressive just how much like effort has gone into studying the folklore of yokai lately. And yeah, that's one of the most distinctive and bizarre ones is the kasobake. And then that seems to be one that actually just like artists came up with when they were coming up with whimsical stuff for their scrolls, but it's still just an amazing image and a fun character to play with. So yeah. But anyway, the main thing is Twilight Tales just hugely expands the range of characters you can use in your Golden Sky Stories games, because it has these 5 character types: Michinoke, Kappa, Oni, ghosts, and then visitors, which is for basically anything that's has weird powers and is kind of visiting the town for a brief time. So that can be like the signature character for that is an alien, but it can also be like a seasonal fairy or like a robot from the future or Santa Claus, even if you want. So
Wait,
all of those.
Play Santa Claus now. I'm interested.
You totally could, yeah. But they give you just each of them can be different things. So like you can take the kappa and say, okay, I'm going to use these water powers to make a mermaid character, that kind of thing. So it just opens up so many possibilities, and we've been looking forward to getting this out to people for quite a while now.
And now the cool thing is you guys have hit almost all of your stretch goals. You only have, at least the ones that are revealed, you only have magical girls left.
Yes, that's it's been a smaller Kickstarter, the first one, which raised $85,000 and had 2,500 backers. And this one is a little, it's for a supplement, so I fully expected it to not be quite as crazy, but it's still currently at this moment $20,549 and 688 backers, which is still pretty amazing and heady to think about. And yeah, there's only one stretch goal left. And so we have a ton of work ahead of us for putting together a great deal of original material and such.
But that'll be fun though. I'm so happy for you guys.
Thank you.
It seems like you have such a it's a niche following, but you guys have like developed a following through the years that really seems very loyal to your work.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't run on praise per se. Like I like when people tell me that they like my games, but my thought is more just this feverish need to make stuff and kind of this desire to share it with people and hope they have fun with it. And so it's the best thing when people, I mean, you just told me how you guys played Maid RPG however many times, and that's amazing to me. And that's one of the things I really love about, doing role-playing games in general, because, any kind of media that you do touches people's lives, but role-playing games kind of, you're giving people a toolkit and you're seeing what they can create off of what you offer them.
Yeah, I'd love to bring, I especially like how approachable a lot of the games that you've worked on are, because I feel like I can bring them to a convention and I don't have to sit there and set up everything and it takes for 5 years. We can just roll really quick and we can get going, because for a lot of people they just don't have the time.
Yeah, that's partly just kind of my style, because it's as I've gotten older, it's gotten harder to get people together consistently, and it's also the influence of Japanese RPGs because in Japan, unless the person is like in college and has tons of free time, chances are they don't have the ability to really get together very consistently. Most Japanese people have small houses, and it's not really practical to have four friends over every week. So a lot of Japanese RPGs are more built towards short-term play. Uh, Golden Sky Stories and Maid RPG aren't really. I wouldn't call them typical in the Japanese RPG scene, but there are typical things about them, including this focus on kind of relatively easy to set up short-term play with the potential to go a bit longer. But it's not like Dungeons and Dragons where you do a lot of preparation and the thing you're hoping for is to be able to play for 3 or 5 years regularly.
I mean, the one game that comes to mind that I know you were involved with because I backed it on Kickstarter was Channel A.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very fast-paced game. I can take that anywhere. Like I can just shove it in my bag, take it anywhere, and I can be like, okay, let's play this. That's like how do you play? Very easy, you know. And
yeah, well, Channel A is a party card game, and I like it. I mean, I made it, so I like it, but I like it and games like it in the part that they're more creative than games like Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples, because it's you're putting words together and making a pitch, so there's a process of interpreting and kind of saying stuff to the other players. But yeah, it's a party game, so it has very simple rules, and just the challenge is more interacting with people. Those kinds of games were actually my gateway to board games. Before that, I was pretty much just an RPG guy.
Oh, really? So that's interesting because like our background is completely swapped. I'm a big board game person. Everyone's surprised when they come over to my house and they're like, "Well, what do we do?" And I'm like, "Board games. Look at all these And I'm the one that's behind everybody else for tabletop games because growing up in middle school and high school, the only people who played like D&D and stuff like that were the boys, and they didn't want to involve me because I was an icky girl, I guess. I don't know. So I haven't really gone to do that except like a decade after high school. So I'm still super fresh and new to tabletop games, and that's why I respond really well to a lot of the ones that you're involved in.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, part of it I think is just that I mean, my parents were like huge Trekkies and all that, and so like there's a lot of kind of mainstream geeky stuff that I'm big into, but I got into anime in high school and just kind of stuck with it ever since. So there are plenty of people who like anime who are into tabletop games, but like the publishing industry, there's relatively few. So like it's relatively easy to kind of stand out in that. And so I look at any given anime that I like, and chances are I can come up with some kind of game idea building off of it that someone hasn't done yet. If I wanted to do a superhero game, there's dozens of those, and I would have to come up with a really unique spin on it. Whereas, there's like 2 magical girl RPGs so far.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that genre, which is kind of a shame. But
yeah,
I'm so excited to see the Kickstarter. I'm actually gonna give this a look over myself because I don't have the original Golden Sky Stories. So
okay, that is something I wanted to mention because you can very easily, if you want to back the Kickstarter, get the core rules as well as the new supplement. And also, if you back it, because we hit all those stretch goals, so there's a bunch of stuff that if you back now, you're going to get for free as PDFs as we finish them. And if you want to get a feel for the game, try it out. Even if you go to the Kickstarter page, we have a replay, which is it's a thing from the Japanese RPG scene where it's a written transcript of a game session. There's a link to a episode of the 6 Feet Under podcast where I ran a session of Golden Sky Stories for them, and then there's a free demo thing. So if you're feeling really ambitious, you want to sit down with some friends and try running a simplified version of the game, you can actually just download a PDF for free and do that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's so cool, and I hope the fans get a chance to check it out. I'm really excited for this, and the art is so cute.
Yeah, yeah. The artist, he goes by Ike. Um, he as the Golden Sky Stories books go on, there's less and less of his art because he started doing this other manga called Nekomusume Michikusa Nikki, or like Cat Girl's Wayside Grass Diary, and it's not quite as kid friendly as the game is, but it's still really phenomenal. It's on volume like 16 or 17 now, so he's just ridiculously busy doing that full time now. And unfortunately, there's no official English version of it, but if you like whimsical stories about yokai and such, I do recommend it.
So, for the fans out there that want to keep up to date with what you're doing, do you guys have any other projects, after this, after Golden Sky Stories on Kickstarter?
Yes. Our next project slated after we finish up with Twilight Tales is we're going to be, for the first time, publishing an original game. That's going to be one that I created called Dragon World, which is it's a game for kind of comedy, anime fantasy. My main inspirations for it are like Dragon Half and Slayers.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's the game I've play tested more than any other that I've done, and it's always really fun to mess with. People always come up with zany characters based off of the classes in the game, and yeah.
I always like to ask about that for game testing because I feel that a lot of people who are interested in gaming, they don't realize that they actually need to test their game. They're just like, I'll release the game and it'll be easy. It's like, wait a second. So how do you go about game testing?
It really depends on the game, like, and different parts of the game can require different kinds of testing. Like, the major thing is just to sit down and play, but you need to kind of be looking for the right kinds of information, like look at what works and what doesn't, like whether the probabilities on rolls are lining up to your expectations and things like that. The thing with, for example, with Dragon World in particular, it is derived from the rules of this other game that's been hugely influential called Apocalypse World. And so the earlier drafts of it, a lot of parts of it were much closer to Apocalypse World. I mean, there were still major changes because it's anime fantasy comedy and not gritty post-apocalyptic. But there are a bunch of things that procedurally I changed. Like in Apocalypse World, it's a thing that before you start a game session, you highlight a couple of your character's attributes, and then anytime you roll with an attribute, you mark experience, and then if you mark experience 5 times, then your character gets to improve. And that was just like this whole rigmarole, and like routinely in playtesting, it just didn't seem to work for my game. And so like we'd been playing for like an hour and be like, oh, we forgot to highlight stats. So like that's an example of something that just in practice, like we realized that it wasn't really helping anything for us and just kind of dropped. And it's a process of things like that, and you gotta also like it's one thing that's really helpful is basically if you can hand the game to someone else and get them to try it with people who you've never met, then that can get you a lot of really useful information if they're willing to take the time to write stuff up. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Jason Thompson. His website is mockman.com, and he did the King of GMs comic and things like that. Yeah. I became friends with him basically because he's a Maid RPG fan, and so a couple of times now he's play tested games for me, and just he'll send me like a 2-page email with all kinds of great feedback, and it always takes me forever to sort through it. But if someone's willing to do that for you, that's just gold for a game designer.
I mean, that's awesome, for the people out there who want to make their own game. That's good advice and everything. For the fans that want to keep up to date with what you're doing, where can they stalk you online in a nice way?
Okay, so I use Twitter all the time. That's at Nekoewen, Nekoewen. I have a blog that I post, not as much as I used to, but at yaruki0games.com, yaruki0games.com. And Starline Publishing, which is what we call the company that we publish Maid RPG and Golden Sky Stories through, has a website at just starlinepublishing.com.
Awesome. So hopefully people only stalk you in a nice way. We don't go for the bad stalking.
Yeah.
That's not our thing. But are you going to be going to maybe any shows, like any conventions to, demo the tabletop at all, or is that not your thing?
Well, my business partner Mike is the one who does more of the going to cons and demoing things. He's the tireless extrovert in our little band, so he does a lot of that. I am hoping I can go to Gen Con this year, among other things. Like I name dropped Jason Thompson. I also know the guys at like Level 99 Games because I keep meeting.
Yeah, Brad.
Yeah. I keep meeting cool people. So like I have a laundry list of people. I'm just like, I got to reach you in person sometime. So I'm really hoping I can go to Gen Con this year, but it's also expensive and I don't know what my work situation is going to be and all that, but hopefully I can make it happen.
Well, we hope to get a chance to see you, and shout out to Level 99 because
Yeah.
hi, Brad. But yeah, for the fans out there that want to support the Kickstarter, we have posted it up on the chat, and we'll make sure to tweet it as well. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners out there? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
I predict that the world will not end in any human time scale.
Fair enough. I think that's as good advice as any. So yeah, thank you very much. And for any of the fans that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.